This week on the Level Up Report, we're going to talk about how live service games should be. Because with the recent announcement of Path of Exile 2, they're going to include the first campaign along with the second and have brand new features. So I wanted to bring up this topic because for the history of live service games, however long it's been, so for Division 2 and Destiny 2, they for some reason excluded the campaigns from the first game, and it's essentially a soft reboot because it doesn't really mention anything from the first game. So I wanted to hear from you, Kuma, who played more looter shooters and these kinds of games than me. What do you think these kinds of games should have instead of what they currently have?
Well, the point is they want to maintain the player base, maintain the money going in, and they always make these promises of, "Oh, we're gonna keep this game alive for 10 years. We're gonna make this game great." But every time they hit a hiccup, like an obstacle, they like, "Okay, fuck it, we're gonna just throw whatever we did away." But they try. They always try. Like at the end of the day, Destiny 1 and Division 1 went from, bad games to be pretty decent games at their final update. But for some reason, they still want to push out the next thing. But instead of continuing with the patching with the updates, they say, "Okay, I'm gonna just throw in a sequel." They don't need a sequel. Why they call it a sequel? It's unnecessary. But the money, the greed is what driving them. So they know that, okay, I know these people still want to play the game. The player base still wants this game. So we're gonna throw them another new game. And then when the new game comes out, the sequel of theirs, it's it has all the same mistakes from the original game. All the same mistakes. But they already fixed these mistakes in the original game. It is so redundant and it's a waste of time, a waste of resources.
I think I have an
And
idea
people
why they do that. It's they want to cash in on because it when they make a sequel, it's a brand new game. So then they get it on the shelves, and when people see it, it's like, oh, okay, it's not the game that was a few years ago. It's a brand new thing.
hmm they want to market themselves as super brand new, super different, but they just keep all the same mechanics. But instead of taking everything from the original game, they start from scratch, which is I don't know, which is really bad. We both play Division 1 and Division 2, and we're like, okay, Division 1 has some things at the end game it was great, it was brilliant, but didn't include in the second game, which is like a waste, really waste. And like people still go back to play the first game because it's missing this kind of stuff.
It's
I
a
mean,
more
you don't
complete
need
package right now,
yeah,
one because of all the time it got and all the updates.
but if they never released a Division 2 but put Division 2 content into a Division 1, it would have been massive. It would have been awesome. It would have been great. And all they needed to do is just, okay, they added a couple more skill, a couple more guns, and a different map. That's basically an expansion, right? What do you think? What do you think?
It's mostly, I mean, it depends. My definition of expansion goes back to when I was playing more MMOs,
hmm
especially like Final Fantasy 14 or World of Warcraft. They include brand new lands and brand new zones you have to explore. Increase the level cap. Then there's a lot of new activities. It really is just an expanding on the game, the base game. So it adds to things or it fixes things. So it knows that people want to be invested in this, and it rewards them for it when they get this. They'll continue that character's journey. So for these live service games, I think these expansions don't really get to be called an expansion because all it is just some DLC that barely adds anything new. It maybe adds a few missions here and there, but I don't consider that substantial enough to call an expansion.
Mm. Okay. So going back to Division 2 and Destiny 2, it's like a brand new story, brand new maps, gameplay mechanics is basically the same, like copy. And all they separate their player base. Like some people would like the first game better than the second game. Um, but all they need to do is just add it on top of their existing game. That's all they needed to do. And they could have done it. There was no reason for them to make this sequel per se.
I think they just wanted more money from, like I said, to tout it as a brand new game.
Mm,
But it's not like with Path of Exile 2, which they just
mm.
announced their next game. They're going to, like I said, they're going to include all the campaign from the previous game, but it'll have a brand new story. And I consider that a true sequel because they said they're going to have brand new maps. It's going to be completely changed. It's going to be set in the future from the first game. So they're adding a lot that I wish Division 2 and Destiny 2 added because I can't find myself really sticking with those games for long as much as I want to because I
Mm.
usually find I'm running out of things to do or I just get bored of the daily grinds I have to do, commitments I have to put into those games.
Yeah, I feel like that's how the gaming industry should really take their games. Like that's how they should like make it, produce it, develop it. Just keep their existing good product and just build upon it. Like like the first game, it should be that foundation. Like, okay, we like tweak it. I think this is what people like, and we want to make it bigger, better, bigger. So we just build upon it. Keep building up, not just like start it from scratch from the very beginning.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how they really should do it. Like, take that MMO model that you spoke about, how they have these like updates and stuff.
Yeah,
That's how they
it's
should really
these
do it.
expansions happen at least a year or two after whatever the other expansion was or after the game is released. Not like these where it's just they're released a few months after and they call it expansion. That's not enough time to put into it. Like you're just adding submissions.
Mm,
It's not substantial enough, at least for me. They'll
okay.
get me to play it again for however long it takes, less than a day, and then I'll stop playing it again. But actually, this kind of model reminds me of The Sims, because The Sims has been guilty of this ever since the first game, where
Ah.
they have all these expansions that like add like pets, new jobs, like a new city, and all those things, new careers. They add all this for like the game before. Then when they
Mm.
make the new game, they strip all that, and then you're back to the base game of what it was and why it's not worth buying. And then they start adding all these expansions again. And then they charge you what $40 per each one. So it adds up again. That's the most
Uh,
extreme example of what not to do.
that's crazy. Yeah. Like, I feel like these developers, they or publisher, they really think the player base was really stupid. They really do think we are. We're not gonna keep falling for these traps. We're gonna pick up. We will notice this trend.
You'll notice the current trends, but they'll just try to find new ways to nickel and dime their player base. I don't want to say that all companies are going to do this because I don't believe that. It's just that these bigger AAA companies, they they don't really try to hide it anymore,
Hmm.
and it's very obvious.
Mm.
But the problem is people are still falling for it. So I
Mm.
can't really blame them for doing it because people just didn't learn.
Oh yeah. Hmm. Well, it affects us hardcore players.
For sure. It just affects the industry in general and people's hobby.
Hmm.
It just hampers the enjoyment out of it. If you just have to constantly think about, oh, I have all these things to buy that they're just piecemealing me about. Just
Well,
make it simple.
this is why I could praise a Path of Exile so much. First of all, they are free free game to play, and they do it in a way that is so like transformative for their industry. And I just hope that other developers and publishers will pick up on this, and make this the true trend of where the industry should head to.
I hope so too. But that's going to do it for this week, and we'll be back next week with another topic.